You know, powerful AI is making decisions about our lives every single day. But here's the thing. What if those decisions are secretly unfair? Today, we're going to dive into a really critical tool designed to fight back against that hidden bias in our tech. It's called the bias alert. And honestly, it's a concept that could completely reshape the future of responsible AI.
So let's just start with a super direct question. Is the AI in your life actually playing fair? And that's a much bigger question than you might think, because AI is already making choices for us in dozens of ways every single day.
I mean, think about it. From the app that gets you a ride home to the algorithm that's looking over your loan application or even your resume. Yep, AI's there. So what happens when these systems that are supposed to be so helpful have a hidden, unseen bias? That's the huge problem we've really got to tackle.
And that brings us right to the heart of the matter, this unseen bias lurking in AI. And let's be clear, this isn't just some little technical glitch. It has very, very real consequences.
Just think about how big the impact is here. We're talking about biased algorithms that could literally deny someone a job, a loan, or other massive life-changing opportunities, and all of it based on flawed data or programming. The ripple effect on society and on people's actual lives, it's just huge.
So the big question is, how do you fight a problem you can't even see? Well, you build a system to sniff it out. And that brings us to this really innovative solution, the bias alert.
Now, a bias alert isn't just some simple warning bell. Nope, it's a complete, proactive system. The whole point is to find and fix biases at every single stage of the process. I'm talking from the moment the data is collected all the way to the final decision that the AI spits out.
And this is a huge shift in thinking. See, the old way was totally reactive. You'd wait for a bias system to actually cause harm, and then you'd scramble to try and fix it. The bias alert approach, it's all about being proactive. It's designed to stop that harm from ever even happening.
Okay, so how does a bias alert system actually pull this off? Well, it all boils down to three key goals.
First up, it's all about awareness and understanding. You got to make sure that people who are building these systems actually know the risks involved. Second, it's bias detection. Using specialized tools to actively hunt down any unfair patterns. And third, and this one is absolutely crucial, it's bias mitigation. That means actively getting in there and working to correct those biased results to get more objective decisions.
All right, so we've got the big idea and the goals, but how does this actually work in the real world? Let's break down the 4 key strategies for putting a bias alert into action.
Strategy number 1 is the foundation for everything else, data governance. This is all about managing the data itself, making sure it's accurate, secure, and used responsibly. You know that old saying, garbage in, garbage out? Well, that's exactly it. This is your first line of defense against bias. For instance, think about a bank. They have super strict rules about who can handle customer data, right? Well, that's not just for security. It's to make sure the information being used for big decisions is handled the right way, ethically. That's how you build a foundation of trust.
Okay, next up is strategy 2, model evaluation. What this means is you can't just build an AI model and release it into the wild. No way. You have to test it like crazy. And not just for how well it works, but for how fair it is, long before it ever affects a real person.
I mean, we've all seen this in action. A spam filter? That's a pretty simple AI model. Evaluating it just means checking to see if it's catching junk mail without, blocking that super important email you were waiting for. The exact same idea applies, just on a much bigger scale to way more complex AI systems.
But listen, the work doesn't just stop at lunch. That brings us to strategy number 3, continuous monitoring. The world is always changing, right? New data is always coming in, and a model that was perfectly fair yesterday might not be fair tomorrow, so you've got to keep watching it.
A great example is a ride-sharing app. Its pricing algorithm is constantly being watched to make sure fares are staying fair even when traffic goes crazy or there's a big event. This constant watchfulness is what prevents things from going haywire and keeps the system working the way it's supposed to.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most important strategy of all, ethical considerations. This one goes way beyond just the technical stuff. It's about focusing on the core principles, things like fairness, transparency, and just preventing harm.
Think about an AI used for hiring. It has an incredible amount of power, right?
So making absolutely sure it doesn't discriminate based on someone's gender or their background, that's not just good practice. It's an absolute ethical must if you want to build trust and have real fairness.
So when you put all these strategies together, what's the end game? What's the ultimate goal here? It's really about building a better, fairer future, one that's powered by technology we can actually trust.
At the end of the day, the bias alert is so much more than just a technical tool. It's a whole framework for promoting justice and equality. By actively getting in there and fixing bias in the AI systems that are shaping our world, we can start to make sure they really reflect our best values.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. A system like the bias alert is a massive step in the right direction, for sure. But this kind of work is never really done. It makes you wonder, right? As technology keeps getting more powerful, what's going to be the next big challenge, the next frontier, for making sure it serves all of us and serves us fairly?